Mr. Julius Malema, are you going to excommunicate all white people from South Africa upon re-election? Mr. Malema, is South Africa going to be another Zimbabwe during your tenure? Mr. Malema, why are you such a radical? Dr. Martin Luther King, why do riots follow your non-violent protesters every time? Dr. Martin Luther King, what is the problem with African Americans? Why can't they get themselves out of poverty? Those are the kinds of questions that political leaders face from time to time. And I know they're the most problematic because you never know what you're going to get. It's unpredictable. This is a moment when a political leader must show their mental clarity, their observational skills, their political stance. You cannot flounder or show cowardice. This evening, I'd like us to look at how Martin Luther King, MLK, and Julius Malema respond to hard questions. And we'll do this by looking at two video clips in which journalists were asking them questions and see how they measure up. Please stick around until the end of the video for lessons on the same. There are certain mistakes that a political leader must never make during a TV interview. Number one, they must never contradict themselves. You can't say something and then say something opposite in the same interview, or contradict what you had said in the past. Number two, you cannot fail to defend your ideas. Number three, you cannot attack a group that enjoys a positive image among the public. And number four, you cannot portray yourself in a negative light. Let's watch clip number one, where Julius Malema is responding to some questions from a TV journalist and see whether he committed any of these four mistakes.
Your model, the Chinese are coming in and working in these places.
Well, in a situation where the EFF works with the Chinese, they won't bring their people into our country. They will do it through our own terms. The same thing with Europe, the same thing with the Western powers, the same thing with Russia. We will work with everybody who's prepared to work with us through our terms. That period of inferiority by African leadership, it must come to an end. We must engage with USA, with Russia, with China as equal partners, not as inferior partner in the whole scheme of things. Otherwise, if they are not prepared to engage with us at an equal footing, then let's engage as Africans. Let's trade with each other and grow our own African economy. It is possible.
That interviewer asked what is called in journalism avoidance questions. This is when, if you respond to the question as asked by the journalist, it can paint you in a bad light. But if you avoid the question and circumvent it, you still look evasive and you still look bad. So you are damned if you do, you are doomed if you don't. However, Julius Malema avoided falling into that trap because he could potentially have committed two mistakes, two sins in TV interviews. One, he could have contradicted himself because they were asking him his stance on the Chinese. Now, initially, Julius Malema had said some not so flattering remarks about the Chinese. And in this instance, he didn't claim that he was all for them. He simply said that the relationship South Africa will have with the Chinese is going to be different. We as Africans are going to define our own terms. So he was able to maintain his stance in the past but still seem reconciliatory. The second mistake he might have committed would have been attacking a group that enjoys a positive image in the public. Remember, he mentioned the Russians, the Americans, and the Chinese in general, and he said that his government will be willing to work with these individuals. What the journalist expected was that Julius was going to brush them off and say South Africa does not need the Russians or the Americans. No. He didn't fall for that trap. He instead explained that they will be seated on the table and they will make demands as equals. So he got a tick for both those boxes. Let's look at the second clip by Martin Luther King and another interviewer and see also how he holds up.
Even Senator Jacob Javits asked the question recently. He said that he was a slum resident, but he and some of his fellow Jews were able to make it out of the ghetto on the Lower East Side. The same thing is true with lots of Irish, Italians. And he asked the question why the Negro finds it so difficult to make his way up out of the ghetto.
Well, number one, no other racial group has been a slave on American soil. It's nice to say other people were down and they got up. They were not slaves on American soil. The other thing is that the Negro has had high visibility. And because of the prejudices existing in this country, his color has been against him. It's been against them, and they've used this to keep him from moving up. In the final analysis, when you say to a man that you are in this position because of your race or because of your color, you say to that man that he can never get out of it. Other racial groups have been able maybe to change the accent or change the names, but the Negro can't.
He wanted to expose, this interviewer wanted to expose a flaw in Martin Luther King's cause. He wanted to show him that the problem is not the system. The problem is the African Americans that Martin Luther King was defending. You see, these journalists, they want to shake the bush until the truth flies free. But being the expert that he was, Martin Luther King gave an irrefutable answer. He said that African Americans are the only group in the land who had been slaves, and they're the only group that are prejudiced because of their skin, or they face color prejudice. Now, who would argue with that? Drop mic. These two individuals have so much in common, and that's the reason why I chose to do a comparison. Martin Luther King and Julius Malema were passionate about their cause. They were immensely convicted about their beliefs. Martin Luther King was deeply disturbed when he realized that African Americans were set up to fail, that they would always be at the bottom of the economic stratum because of a legacy of slavery, and he made it his life's mission to fight for them. Likewise, Julius Malema noted that black people in South Africa were also at the bottom tier of the economic chain. In fact, I remember checking out a video clip in which Julius lamented about how house cleaners petrol station attendants, and any other person doing a manual job are all black people. There was no single white person who was a house cleaner in South Africa. And he kept asking, what did we do wrong? Where did the rain start beating black people in South Africa? That realization made Julius Malema's mind like steam under pressure. And this cause is what informed the formation of economic freedom fighters. And it is the reason why Julius Malema is magnetic. It is the reason why he has such a resounding following, because he has a cause and he will stop at nothing to fight for that cause. Overall, I can say that these two individuals pass the test when it comes to answering hard questions. They are confident. They don't flounder like branches of a tree or tides of an ocean that responds to the winds. No, they stick to their guns and they maintain their stance. These individuals are clear. They explain their answers in a way that is irrefutable. These individuals are consistent. They don't contradict themselves. If they said something in a rally, they will say it again in a TV interview. Shout out to all my new South African subscribers. I have nothing but love for you. I wish you all the best in the upcoming elections, which are due in just a couple of days. I request that every single African who views this video should subscribe for more content on leadership and communication in the African continent. Thank you, Julius Malema. Thank you, Martin Luther King, for inspiring black people all over the world.